A lot of Canadians are very concerned over the ongoing protests across our country with the pipelines. Rail lines have been shut down and is having a major impact on our economy, people's livelihoods. Joining me now from Ottawa via Skype to discuss this is Lethbridge Conservative MP Rachael Harder. Rachael, let's begin with the blockade situation happening across our country. Protesters are shutting down our rail lines over the Coastal GasLink pipeline, even though it is the approval from the government and from many First Nations groups along the pathway. Why is the rule of law not being enforced?
Well, it's not just approval from a few or from most. It's actually approval from every single First Nations groups that exist along the pathway of the pipeline. So it's a mystery to many of us as to why this is not going forward, as to why the rule of law is not being upheld, as to why the Prime Minister of Canada is not advocating for our prosperity and our well-being as a country. And so, the Prime Minister needs to do what's right, and that is to say we need to take action and to get this pipeline going. And the rule of law ultimately needs to be upheld for the sake of the unity of our country and our prosperity as a nation.
So who are these protesters exactly who are holding Canada hostage? Are some of them from the United States, funded with foreign money?
Yeah, certainly there's evidence that these individuals many of them are not even from Canada. There's definitely some foreign investment that's coming up here, both in the form of dollars as well as people who are coming and who are a part of this effort to create these blockades and, of course, to halt our economic advantage and development as a country.
The coronavirus is making headlines around the world. Close to 2,000 people have now died, close to 100,000 people still infected, including Canadians who are coming home soon, who are stuck on those cruise ships. Rachael, has Ottawa done enough and working fast enough to help Canadians affected by this deadly disease?
Yeah, so, interestingly enough, the health minister herself would admit that they didn't work quick enough, that they actually were really slow in their response, that they didn't take the steps that were necessary in order to get Canadians out of China and back to Canada. And so that's her own admittance. And of course, I would affirm that. Canada hasn't done enough. Canada did not act quick enough, nor have they taken the actions that are necessary in order to provide for Canadian citizens who are stuck in China.
The Privacy Commissioner's Office says it has found strong indications of systemic underreporting by the federal government regarding privacy breaches. How concerned should we really be about this?
Yeah, I think Canadians, they interact with government agencies, including the CRA, on a regular basis. All of us file our taxes, or at least we're asked to. And so with that, we expect the government to keep our records in a secure place. We expect for our privacy to be respected. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're finding out is that that's not the case, that there are actually more breaches than what we're being made aware of. And the Privacy Commissioner has actually asked that there would be greater regulatory measures put in place in order to protect Canadians, and that greater measures would be taken with regards to reporting. And so these actions do need to be taken, and it's the responsibility of the current federal government to make sure that they are.
Rachael, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has been traveling to Africa, campaigning really hard for support to win a UN security seat. How important is this really for Canada? Is it worth the effort?
At the end of the day, I believe that it's the Prime Minister's first and foremost. It is his responsibility to make sure that the unity of our country is upheld, to make sure that citizens are kept safe and secure, to make sure that we are existing in a place of peace, and to ensure that our economic prosperity continues to grow. Currently, our Prime Minister is not doing these things. He's not looking after our country, and so he has absolutely no business going off and visiting with other African countries in order to try to gain a seat at the Security Council. Look after your own country first. Make sure that you're keeping its peace intact before you dare look at that of other countries.
What's interesting too is that Canada is currently running third behind Ireland and Norway, so we may not even get that security seat with the United Nations. Now, Prime Minister Trudeau missed the deadline for filing a financial disclosure statement with the Ethics Commissioner. The PMO says it was simply an oversight. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, every time after an election, as members of Parliament, we're expected to, be entirely transparent with regards to our finances, et cetera. And so we give a report to the Ethics Commissioner, and we have a deadline for filing it. Most MPs meet this deadline. Unfortunately, this time around, 13 did not, and of course, their names made it into the media. The Prime Minister is one of those individuals. I have to show a little grace on this one. We get busy. Sometimes there are administrative flaws.
Yeah, I guess you can imagine, especially when you're traveling to Africa, Kuwait, and Germany, and then back here to Canada.
exactly, especially when your focus isn't on your own country.
Now, what are your thoughts on the ongoing drug crisis and crime issues here at home in Lethbridge? Is there something more that Ottawa could potentially do to maybe lend a hand?
Yeah, certainly. In 2016, the health minister at the time, she made a decision that the nation's response to the opioid crisis was going to be a harm reduction response, and so Lethbridge, the supervised consumption site was largely birthed out of that federal initiative. It just hasn't worked. That's the bottom line. It has not worked to restore safety to our community or security within our community. It hasn't worked to help people get off of the addictions that they struggle with. And so at the end of the day, we do need a federal strategy that is going to put people first. And putting people first means giving them a second chance at life, which means detox and recovery. And so the federal health minister does have a responsibility, and I would say an opportunity, to defend Canadians, to give them an opportunity for a vibrant future, and to make sure that detox and healing are put first and foremost as a part of our strategy going forward.
Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman has joined us here on the show a number of times at Bridge City News, saying that we need a federal prosecutor here in Lethbridge to deal with a lot of the crime. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, certainly. Again, this government has been really slow on putting judges in place, on putting prosecutors in place, and certainly, Lethbridge would benefit from action on that end.
Rachael, can you talk a bit about the Teck Resources Oil Sands project, Teck Frontier? Now, we're waiting to hear from the federal government as to whether or not they will grant approval of this massive project. How important is Teck Frontier to Albertans?
Oh, how tech is incredibly important to Alberta. I mean, we're talking 7,000 construction jobs up front. We're talking 2,500 ongoing jobs from there on. But I think let's remember that this is Alberta's well-being. We have an opportunity in front of us to develop the natural resource sector, and we need to do everything within our power to do so. This is the bread and butter for our province. This is what builds hospitals. This is what builds schools. This is what builds rec centers. But more importantly, this is what helps families pay their bills, pay their mortgages, pay their rent, put fuel in their vehicles, send their kids to hockey, pay the basic necessities in life. And so, look, at the end of the day, Canada's not asking for a welfare check. Canada is asking to get to work, and the federal government has a responsibility to empower us to do so. This project needs to be approved.
What's interesting is that Premier Jason Kenney went on record recently saying by the year 2050, he'd like to see Alberta actually phase out of the energy sector, which kind of surprised a lot of us here in Alberta. So what are your thoughts as well? Does Alberta need to get out of that, maybe invest more in energy, the energy sector, instead of the energy sector, more into green technology and maybe agriculture?
I think Alberta is rich in resources, and so certainly, energy is one of those resources, but agriculture is also one. And I fully believe that agriculture is actually our superpower, not only as the province of Alberta, but actually as a country. I believe that we have a place to take on the world stage, whether that's with regards to agricultural production, agricultural business, agricultural science, agricultural tech. We are leading the way, and we need to continue to take that place on the world stage.
So Rachel's, what options does Alberta have if Teck Frontier does not get approved?
If tech does not get approved, we're looking at Albertans being incredibly disgruntled. We're looking at that separatist momentum, that notion of taking Alberta, maybe Saskatchewan, maybe BC, and separating from the rest of Canada. That notion will only continue to be strengthened over time if tech does not get approved.
You know that Wexit movement is growing exponentially here across the province. What do you say to those Albertans who are frustrated with Ottawa and the Trudeau Liberals and they want to leave?
This is a really tough one for me, because I believe in the well-being of my province. I believe in its future. And I believe that we are, we just have so many factors that lend to greatness and our economic prosperity, if only given the opportunity to pursue them. And currently, the federal government is the one that's standing in the way of us being prosperous as a province. That said, I love my country and I stand for unity from coast to coast. And so I must continue to advocate for one country going forward.
And obviously you advocate for Lethbridge too, being the Lethbridge Tory MP. How can we get more businesses to invest in our city, the Windy City here?
Yeah, I think Lethbridge is this incredible place of opportunity. And of course, in particular, with regards to agriculture, again, whether that's egg production or business, tech or science, we just have so much to offer and we have so much potential that is yet to be met. And so I think we really need to continue to develop those opportunities. I think one of the things that I'm really proud of is the fact that we have a university and a college within our city, and we're attracting young talent. We need to continue to look for ways to retain that talent, to help those individuals start up businesses and to be innovative, to be creative, and to be ultimately to be successful and to contribute to our economic development.
Let's go back to talking about China for just a moment here, Rachel. We're facing a ban on canola, pork, beef exports, and of course, the two Michaels, Spavor and Kovrig, still being detained unlawfully in China. What do we have to do?
Well, this is such an important issue. My colleagues and I, we brought forward a motion to the House of Commons just after Christmas, and we called for a special committee to be put together with regards to Canada-China relations. The reason why this is so important to us is because our country is currently receiving retaliatory measures from the Chinese government. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the arrest of May, who, of course, is the executive for Huawei. Now, with that, there are these retaliatory measures that are being taken against Canada, whether that's against our pork industry or our beef industry or grain. What are our options going forward? Look, I think at the end of the day, we really need a positive diplomatic relationship with China. And that's going to take political will. Right now, the current government has not shown that they have that, nor do they have the strategic ability to move forward in positive relationship with China. Coming back to my party and the motion that we put forward, we're wanting to take a close look at the relationship that Canada has with China. We're wanting to get to the bottom with regards to the concerns or the problems that exist there, and to come up with positive and creative solutions going forward for the sake of Canadians.
The Conservative leadership race is well underway. Many say it's Peter MacKay's to lose. I'm thinking the front runners, MacKay, you've got Erin O'Toole. I don't know about Marilyn Gladu. Any thoughts on the process so far?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I haven't decided who I'll be putting my name behind. I'm still waiting to look at the full slate of candidates once they're finalized. But that said, I think there's a few things that I'm looking for. I think certainly as a party, we need someone who is going to unify us as a membership base, but also someone who will unify Canada from coast to coast. In addition to that, we need someone who shows leadership. And for me, I think one of the primary qualities of a good leader is someone who can put forward a captivating vision and empower their team to accomplish that vision as a collective. The third thing that I'll be looking for is someone who is electable, someone who can go toe-to-toe with Trudeau, who is intelligent, who is visionary, again, who can build a strong team and who can lead us through the next general election successfully.
How about somebody as well that can bridge the gap between the social conservatives and who many are calling red Tories?
Certainly, we need someone who will appeal to the entire broad base of our party. We are a big blue tent, and that means that we have individuals on all sides of social issues as well as, of course, fiscal issues. And so we, again, coming back to the idea of unity, we need someone who can reach out and build relationship with all Conservatives within the party.
Rachael Harder, Conservative MP for Lethbridge, joining me from Ottawa. Thanks a lot for your time today.
Thank you so much for your time, Hal.